The Celtic Exchange, a fresh insight on Celtic Football Club.
It's been a mixed week for Celtic, with a 3-1 defeat by Bodo Glimt in the UEFA Conference League on Thursday, closely followed by a 3-2 league win over Dundee on Sunday, which extends our lead at the top of the Scottish Premiership table to 3 points. Some fans have been getting anxious as we get to the business end of the season, but hat-trick hero GIORGOS GIAKOUMAKIS says we've nothing to worry about and that the title's pretty much in the bag, so that's nice to hear. This is episode 58 of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by Mif and Paddy to cover all things Celtic. Mif, 4 goals scored this week, but 5 conceded. What are you saying to that?
Hello Tino, hello Paddy, hello guys and girls. What am I saying to that? As disappointing as Thursday was and remains to be, it was very important we got the job done on Sunday given events at Tannadice. So all in all, to be perfectly honest, I'm happy. We keep finding a way to win, which is the most important thing. We didn't play particularly well on Thursday night. We didn't play particularly well on Sunday either. I didn't think about it. I was at the game Sunday. I wasn't there on Thursday, but I did watch it. Thursday for me, there was mitigating circumstances. Most of all, I think they were just a good team. We tried to go toe-to-toe in early stages, and I think we got a bit spooked when they scored, and that was the reason why we stood off, and then the game followed a pattern after that. Sunday, I expected us to come out the traps a bit more readily, that kind of send a message type mentality, get a few early goals, blitz them and that. Didn't really transpire. And the Dundee brick wall, the Mark McGee inspired Dundee brick wall, almost done the trick, and ruthlessly exposed how weak our backline can be defending set pieces, 2 balls in the box, 2 goals. So all in all, to recover from it and bring 3 points home, very, very happy. And in the context of the season, if you include the goal difference as well, effectively get a 4-point cushion. Very, very important. And now it brings a different type of pressure for Ange and the team, because now there is real, genuine, legitimate expectation. So it'll be interesting to see how we go for you.
Yeah, it really will. Paddy, the goals conceded and UEFA Conference League results matter at all so long as we go on to win this league?
Yeah, for me it does. I've kind of been a big advocate for us in Europe this season. I don't think you let that drop. I'm not one of these supporters that kind of says it's the league and the league only. I think we should be trying to compete in every competition because we've got a budget to do so. I think obviously, given the rebuild this year, yes, granted, I can look at the group that we ended up in the Europa League and say to myself, right, I'm happy that we've ended up getting into this Conference League, but to not want to try in it is just not. It's not something I've been brought up as a supporter or someone that plays football. I always believe that you just try and win every single game it's put in front of you.
Yeah, I wonder if as fans were doing that thing you'd done as a wee guy. It's like, I'm not bothered anyway. I didn't care about your daft competition.
Well, all I would say is, I don't think it's a point of no trying. I just think the context of this season, the most important thing is winning the league. It's a wee bit unique this season because of what's went before. And I just think, not that I want to put all my eggs in the one basket. I agree with you. You want to compete on all levels, but for me, the league title I don't think has ever been more important, not just because of the Champions League riches that are attached to it, not just solely because of that. I just think from a psychology point of view, there's a lot riding on it. So for me, with both teams having effectively new managers at the helm, the psychology when the league's so very important for what happens next after that, in terms of how they're trusted by the fans, by the board. I just think all that really matters this season. I hated every minute of Thursday. I really did, and I wasn't a happy bunny after the game. Of course, I'm not trying to minimise it in that sense. Like, I didn't care about Europe anyway. Not at all. Just for me, the focus has to be in getting this league won.
I agree with what you're saying with that.
However,
no, there will be a but.
Here comes the big but.
I just think that if we kind of go on that basis of just like saying that everything is about the league, and listen, I know how important it is this season. First and foremost, it's the one competition I want is winning, absolutely. But you kind of let that board off with last season if you don't say that we should be challenging for everything. Do you know what I mean? They should be prepared for all tournaments that we enter.
Moving forward, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would expect in some form a sustained European run under Ange.
Yeah.
Because if he does win the league in his first season, that's next in the board, really.
Yeah. If nothing else, so ongoing participation in the Conference League allows you to prep for the Champions League when you get to it, if we get to it, and all that kind of stuff. Because again, Ange's trying new things, and his system's 8-9 months old. He'll want as many European fixtures as possible because it's a different test v Dundee than it is v Bodo, for example. Yeah. And he want to make sure all these new guys, especially the Hatatis, O'Reillys, Maedas, who are even newer in the door, he want to make sure that they're prepped for the, whatever European competition we face at the start of next season.
I 100% agree. And I think one of the things I would say to back up yourself with just focusing on the league would be how amazing it would be for us as a team and us as a support, to be honest, that we have a summer off. Like, we've got a full pre-season card. We're not having to worry about qualifiers coming, players coming back from international tournaments, although there's none until later on in the year. But we'll have a full card. The players are getting a full rest. The likes of McGregor getting a summer off. He's not had one in how long? It's going to be crucial for us, and it's going to be crucial for building just a stronger team as well. So I can see that side of it too. I just think that we as a team over how many years, since 2004, we've not done anything in knockout football at all. And I just think that the more games you play, the more you start to understand it and know what it's all about. And the best time for that, for me, is a fresh team, a team that's not been used to be the odd wee defeat here or there, or the Copenhagen's, or what happened on Thursday night. A team that just knows how to play through it. And it's learning curves, and I just think that the games are so important for us as well.
Plus the fact that you've booked flights to Albania, I think.
Not yet.
You don't want to give up on them.
Not yet.
All interesting stuff. We'll get into all of that and a lot more. So before we get started today, a quick reminder that you can now see Mif and Paddy's beautiful wee faces by watching our weekly shows on the Celtic Exchange YouTube channel. If you don't like their faces, however, you can also listen to the audio-only version by tuning into the podcast on all the usual platforms. If you are watching on YouTube, please take a minute to subscribe to the channel right now by clicking the red subscribe button. And while you're there, click the thumbs up icon to like this week's episode. That all goes a long way to helping us do what we do, and it's really appreciated by all of us here at the show. Okay, Mif, what we'll do, let's get started with Sunday's visit to bottom of the league Dundee. On paper, should have been a stroll in the park, but in reality, it wasn't, was it?
No, it wasn't, and like I said, was a bit surprised at how we started. The game was really slow, static, not a lot of movement, a lot of sideways passing, nobody really taking a lot of the initiative. Jota's kind of lull in form continued. He did try, it's not through lack of effort, it's just he's just not as sharp as he was pre-injury. It's still coming back, a few things he did try just never really came off. Didn't stop trying, didn't stop showing, so no complaints there, but just unfortunately, as happens with players, especially with a hamstring injury, that spark, that sharpness does take a while to come back. Other than that, Hatate and O'Reilly probably their quietest games so far. Again, not really taking too much responsibility, but they weren't so bad either. It just, to me, was a bit flat. Giakoumakis, I have to say, wasn't really overly involved in the build-up play, but it's what we've been begging for at Celtic for a good few years, is that what we would class as a penalty box striker. Yeah. Those runs that he made for 2 of his goals where he's inside the 6-yard box to score them. And the first goal, what a finish that is, by the way. The first
great
goal,
finish.
Great finish. And that's a few instinctive sort of one-touch finishes he's come up with. So it's great to see that. It's great to see that. And along with Kyogo's pretty similar in that sense. He seems to be quite unconventional sometimes. He just looks for a way to kind of guide the ball into the net, so it's great. But credit to Dundee for the point of view of their game plan worked. Hold out, get a set piece, try and make the most of it. Wasn't great to watch, to be honest with you. Conditions were awful. It should be noted, so wasn't really conducive to free-flowing football, should I say. But overall, it was really just an afternoon to get the job done. Yeah. And they did.
You've mentioned that, Paddy, we need to talk about set pieces. It's become a thing, for Celtic. You can be quite confident that a team like Dundee, they're not going to, cut you open and tear you apart, certainly through open play. And they would very much rely on set pieces as part of their game plan. And you could be sure that Ange and the backroom staff, they'll have been drilling it into the players. Don't give away cheap fouls in the edge of the area or the the surrounds. And that's exactly what we've done. I think there's a stat doing the rounds that Celtic have only conceded 6 attempts on goal in the last 2 games this week, so Dundee and Bodo, and we've lost 5 goals out of them. And that just shows that there is something at the moment far wrong with what we're doing. And there's no getting away from it. There's loads of credit due to Ange and everything that's going on, but if you're looking to find something that's not quite going well, it's the set pieces.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say for the first one though, I'm twofold on it in the sense that I think for our set pieces, it's kind of going back to some of the goals we were conceding last season. Anytime we gave a free kick outside, like a decent enough distance for it to be floated in, as a fan, you were sitting there like, this is a worry. Anything that was getting lumped into the box there was no command from the goalkeeper. There wasn't anything much for Duffy or Ayer or Julian in the first part of the season. It's not all too different in the sense that when you look at Starfelt, when you look at Carter Vickers, who they're coming up against, the game against Bodo Glimt, they're coming up against a physical team, and the game yesterday, they're coming up against big centre-halves. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt in the sense that Joe Hart hasn't, for me, always been a goalkeeper that comes out and commands his area. But then you've got to look at how we deal with that differently. And the only thing for the first goal that annoyed the life out of me was Hatate fixing his shin guards.
It was criminal.
It's
I don't know what he was
crazy.
thinking.
It's crazy, and it's just about that level of being switched on, because these are the fine moments in the game that can end up going against you. When obviously they get the second goal, we're then worrying for the last 20 minutes. Small moments like that, I understand. Yes, if it's irritating you, annoying you, that's fine. Look at what's going on. Look at the guy about to swing the ball in. Also, think it was a foul though.
On O'Reilly?
On O'Reilly, aye. They're talking last night on Sports Scene about it being a cute block. For me, you're just holding the player back and stopping him from moving. So that's obstruction and a foul in my book. So
for me, just on the point, the keeper has to come and collect that.
I agree.
A ball bouncing in the 6-yard box, you can speak about all the wee different kind of moments that surround that. You can look at the concession, all the things. If a ball has bounced in the 6-yard box, regardless of the weather conditions, swirling wind, whatever, Joe Hart is actually on his heels when the ball bounces. For me, that is unforgivable.
And I don't know how we, and none of us know how we prep for set pieces at Lennoxtown, what they do when they're working on corners. Is it, seems to be zonal, but do they have the suggestion that if it comes in this zone, Joe, it's yours? I don't know historically what kind of goalkeeper he's been in terms of, you might know, Paddy, does he come for crosses over the years, or is he more built his reputation on shot stopping, and being that presence?
So in some of the games that I've seen him this season, there's been times where he's just come out of absolutely nowhere, and I think it's a case by case from him. I think it's whether he's got the confidence in order to come out and gather that. If you're playing in conditions like that as a goalkeeper, it's not always the most comfortable thing to try and come out, because the judgment of the ball's a lot harder. The wind can take it. I can appreciate that, but as Mif says, I totally agree. If it's bouncing, your goalkeeper should be there at least to try and put off the header.
And that's not to absolve Hatate for anyone, because Hatate's actually backed away for the ball as it's bounced as well. So he is completely at fault there. O'Reilly's been blocked off, yes. But Hart, all he has to do is only one guy in the box can use his hands. Just come out and collect it. It's as simple as that.
Paddy, are you saying that Joe Hart treats each corner on its individual merits and makes a judgment call on, I'm going to go for this one?
Aye.
And then another day goes, I'll just leave that. But you're right, and I think less so, someone else sent me a message asking should he have come out for the second one. Less so, there's a bigger distance, and I caught the chat on Sports Scene about how, I think it was Marvin Bartley made the point that Celtic should have probably been a bit deeper, because they've left such a big zone behind for some of the big powerful guys that Dundee have. It's all they can hope for in a game against Celtic at Celtic Park, and they very nearly stole the points because of it.
Well, it was quite disappointing as Starfelt went for a lie down just as the ball kind of got put into the box. He's on the deck when the boys head on the ball, so just really, really weak. I thought both goals are just really, really weak.
It's no urgency.
And given that Dundee had so little of the play and so little opportunity at all in the game, that just gives other teams encouragement. They'll just be trying to win free kicks within 40 yards of our goal and just swing it in. Don't get me wrong, we've scored more goals than anybody else in the league, we conceded less. The balance has been there, but it would be wrong of us just to gloss over a point which clearly needs work.
Of course, I think it's, it was Dundee had 2 attempts on goal and they've scored them. Aberdeen had 2, they've had the 2 set pieces there, and what's the old cliche, if you know them all, the one about you don't fix your roof when it's raining and all that stuff. So you work in these things when things are going well. You don't fix the leaky roof when it's raining. That's for us. Innit, Paddy?
I hope so.
Aye, back me up,
For
bro.
your sake, I hope so.
I really hope so. We'll just cut this bit out if it's
Aye,
not.
mate, aye.
But they should be working on these things while we're in the ascendancy, while we're the top dogs, while we've scored more and conceded less than anybody else. But there's no doubt, and listen, there's loads of positive stuff. This isn't going to be a negative show by any stretch. There's loads of good stuff from Sunday, but we've got to address these matters because they're important.
Well, what you don't want is like kind of what I was saying about last season is you don't want any of those small things, albeit it's a different back line. You don't want anything like that creeping in again. Far and large this season, Hart has been very commanding of his full area, and the back line have all been very comfortable with each other. I think I'm going to give it just a bit of a one-off yesterday, taking into consideration the weather, just taking into consideration people just not being switched on. I hope that's all it's down to. I generally don't have any major concerns about it. It's not been the biggest gripe we've had all season. Mm-hmm. It's always been a Celtic thing, not just under Ange, not just under Lennon last season. It's always been a Celtic thing with zonal marking. We've seemed to just continuously try. I don't know whether down the line Ange tries to change that, or maybe that's just a method he's fairly happy with. But by and large, I'm quite happy with what we've done this season. Like Mif said, we've got the best defence in the league, so I'm not getting too caught up in it.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in one last negative before we kick into the sunshine and rainbows, but we'd only conceded 2 goals at Celtic Park in the league all season up until Sunday. We've since doubled that against bottom of the league Dundee. So it's just not good. And we've conceded 3 during the week. So we've conceded 5 goals this week at Fortress Parkhead. So I just think things are going great just now. We're top of the table and all that good stuff. But there's a wee bit of complacency is not the word, but we're not quite firing all cylinders. With the brilliant result against Rangers, blew them away, blew Motherwell away. Since then, it's maybe dipped a wee bit.
I completely agree. And I think it's as a result of, if I go back to the Bodo game, if you look at, say, Abada, Rogic, Maeda and O'Reilly, Jota, maybe not so much O'Reilly, but Jota, they all kind of had off games.
Mm-hmm.
The key part of the way that we've played, the fluency that we've played with.
Sorry to interrupt. You're not including your buddy Greg Taylor in that?
I'll get to him in a minute. Because it wasn't his fault. Right, so the way that we play, the fluency that we play with, one of them, possibly even 2 of them having an off night, the others would generally make up for it. Yeah. The fact that they all did, it was almost like the perfect storm of snideness. And I think it just caught up. Remember the run that's preceded it.
Aye.
Remember the run of games whilst going through a rebuild that you've had to go and dig and scratch and scrape to get the results, to get the wins, to make that an unbeaten run. There's been a lot of last minute winners in there. The team showed enough desire and heart. At some point, when you know you're not really where you want to be, and Ange has been very vocal about that, even when we have been winning, a performance like that is always quite likely. Marry that with the fact that you're playing a good team. Mm-hmm. You are playing a good team. And that's no revisionism. I think, the fact Bodo are maybe not the most heralded team in Europe, and they come from Norway, people will be quite sniffy about it. But they've been doing good things over the past couple of years, and they've had some decent results in Europe. So I think for us, chastening because it's happened before, it makes you think of Copenhagen, it makes you think of Cluj, it makes you think of Ferencvaros. That's what these situations do to you. You go on our budget, why are we doing this? But in the context of where the team's at, what Ange's trying to do, the run that the team's been on, I think it's a forgivable performance. I think it's forgivable that those 5 players that I mentioned could just all have an off night in the one night because they've been playing with such intensity week in, week out for so long that it's just one of those nights you write it off and you move on. Against Dundee, it was almost kind of like more of the same in terms of it was slow, it was ponderous, there wasn't much spark about it, but when it's really, really mattered, the whole reason you've got the squad, the whole reason you've invested in Giakoumakis is for him to do what he's done, and that's put the ball in the back of the net, and he's done it. I think big credit has to go for the winning goal, particularly to Juranovic and the way that he's jockeyed the player, to McGregor, who's coming round in the cover, has chased him all the way back and has allowed Juranovic to go in to make the tackle because he knows McGregor's coming round the cover. Yep. Abada and Ralston's composure, but Juranovic has actually continued his run to the point where he's off the park. when the ball gets put in the box, he just kept running and just ran straight off the park. He's actually managed to get beyond the ball. And I'm delighted for Giakoumakis. I mean, Ralston, the quality of that cross,
Great
under
ball.
pressure.
Brilliant.
He had a great game. I thought he had an excellent game. But Giakoumakis, who wasn't overly involved in the play, I doubt the heat map wouldn't have been very hot. But it's been hot where it's mattered. And again, a big centre forward, fine header, bursting the net. You just can't beat it. Last 5 minutes, it was magic. And here, I'm quite impressed. He's obviously got the wee Mif regime when he's going to the gym, that physique.
Did not skip
10
ab
pack,
day
10 pack.
like yourself.
Love
If
it.
that was a beautiful monologue. I mean, you spoke for far too long. That was about 6
Thank
minutes.
you.
But you managed to somehow turn a negative into a positive.
Well, I'm too busy listening to your negatives, Tino, man. I had to perk it up, man.
You've done a great job, right? So listen, now we've got all that negativity out of the way, Paddy, and Mif's put that to bed. Let's take a look at Sunday's main man, so GIORGOS GIAKOUMAKis. He's no Kyogo, but thankfully he's also no Mo Bangura. He's a very different type of striker, certainly to those two for different reasons. But what kind of front man do we have in our hands here, Paddy? And can he take the responsibility of being our main striker whilst Kyogo's out?
I think he's already put that to bed for me. I think he's someone that's just he's an awkward player, and that can be from an attacking sense as well. Sometimes where he ends up in the park, I think a few times you've seen the likes of O'Reilly or Rogic maybe try to slip him in, and he's right next to him after giving him the ball. So,
What you doing here?
Aye, mate, you're in the wrong bit. But he's. Having said that, his movement inside the box is just the eagerness to get involved is incredible, and I think his finishing is there. We know it's there. I'd like to know the amount of shots he's had on target, but have been probably just right at the keeper or good saves from the keeper, because he could have scored probably double what he's got with us at the moment, I think. And games like that yesterday, that just, you want him to kick on for you. You want the goals just to come naturally now. He's settling in. You can see every time he scores, it seems like a big bag of frustration coming out, a big weight off his shoulders.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure most players read what's going on online and definitely with social media, they'll see what people are saying about them. And, not everyone has been his supporter. I think especially when he first came in, it was, it took time for him to settle. But my God, I just think we've found a gem there. And I'm very excited to see the running with him.
Exactly. And I don't think there's any doubt he'll have been stung by the criticism after the penalty miss against Livy. When was that? September? October?
End of September.
End of September.
Aye.
You're right. He reads the headlines. He sees what's going on, and he was getting vilified by all and then some.
Especially you, Tino.
100%.
What? Possibly me as well. But he's clearly used that. He's used that, fuel, and he had a layoff through injury not long after that, and it almost, you were wondering if Andrew's taking him out the firing line to protect him. It actually seems that he did have a genuine injury, but he's come back at a time, and sometimes this is how football goes, sliding doors and all that stuff, but Kyogo's found himself injured and unavailable, and Giakoumakis has stepped up and then some. So the goals on Sunday there were his 5th, 6th and 7th of the season, all one-touch finishes, all inside the box, and that's really good to see. And as I said, Kyogo's a very different type of striker, and he's very, cute and composed with some of his stuff, in and around the box. Giakoumakis is just one touch bang, doesn't think about it, and it's instinctive, and it could be crucial in this running.
Absolutely. He is a bit awkward, as you say, Paddy. Excuse me. He just is one of those strikers that he's always liable to kind of make something happen.
Yeah.
You can even see the way we don't use him a lot in the build-up play, but when he makes his runs, he's getting in front of centre half and holding them off in anticipation of receiving the ball.
Yeah.
Doesn't always get it, but you can see eagerness, as you said, Paddy. He's always looking to cause a problem for the defenders. I think he's been quite unlucky not to have scored more so far, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought he was outstanding against Rangers. He was outstanding against Hearts as well, from memory, and I thought he was really good against Motherwell as well. So we need that. We need something different, because we don't want to have just a small, fast forward line. In Scottish football, you do need that physical presence and a focal point, even if it is sometimes when you're under a bit of pressure, somebody to hit. But also, when somebody's as big and athletic as him with his movement, it's always going to cause problems. The Maeda one's quite an interesting one for me in terms of, it would be nice. We play the way we play, and we're always going to play that way, so there's no point in worrying too much about it. But I think a front line of either Giakoumakis and Maeda or Kyogo would be quite interesting as a two.
Yeah.
Just that, the kind of classic combination, because I think it would be good to have that. You saw glimpses of it when Maeda was left and Giakoumakis was up, where he's trying to flick the ball at him and stuff like that. So I thought Maeda done really well for the second goal, and would have liked him to have done that a wee bit more actually. Just commit players. He always seemed to kind of play it safe. I think maybe confidence wise he's just kind of finding his feet. Maeda, but he's shown that the one that Giakoumakis should have had a penalty, which is an absolute blatant penalty and a Stonewall. It's a red card as well, because it's violent conduct. But Maeda should have buried the header. Yeah. Should have absolutely buried the header, and he's just kind of flicked into the keeper's hands.
I think there's much more to come from Maeda.
Absolutely.
I think he's shown he's a very different type of left winger than Jota. He's not flicks, tricks and all that kind of stuff. He's just pace and power. I think his movement's exceptional, and I think he gets himself into very good areas. And if he can just settle down a wee bit, he'll bang in a few more goals. Keeping in mind he scored a few already. Yeah. His stats are fine, but I think he'll improve, and you've got to give that leeway that he's just landed here, and a lot's been going on. I think he'll settle in just fine.
Well, I definitely think there's a reason. It's the loan to buy option. I definitely think that there is a reason behind that. It's possibly
I keep forgetting that actually.
Yeah, and it's maybe been from his side. I don't know about this. It maybe take him a bit of time to settle in. But for me, I think there's a lot more to come from him too. He seems very comfortable on both feet. That was the ball in yesterday was a great cross. Yeah. And I think you guys mentioned it in the final whistle. I'd love to see him just start to take it more to the byline. He likes to kind of cut in. And a lot of the time I'm just kind of like, that is playing it safe, and it will take a wee bit of time just to realise I've got the better of all of these fullbacks here, because he's rapid.
And in fairness, Jota was the same yesterday, and that was what was creating a lot of the problem.
Could be.
They were coming inside. It's just a confidence thing, I think. You know yourself, when guys like Sinclair, Roberts, Forrest were all feeling they're most confident and they would go round the outside. When they weren't, they'd come inside, and you're seeing the same for these guys.
Exactly. It's the life of a winger, isn't it? Whether he at Celtic or otherwise, but certainly at a big club.
I should know.
Mif, the experienced winger.
I should know.
The 40-something. I won't reveal your trade, but 40-something winger.
Listen, I'm quite happy being experienced. The very definition of a Celtic guy, flying down that wing.
But when when it's a full stadium and it's a pressure game, and even at 2 each on Sunday there against Dundee, anytime Jota or less so Maeda, more the second half, but when Jota and Abada in the closing stages were getting the ball, there was that kind of tension around, and that's hard for a guy. That's a lot of pressure on anybody.
I thought Abada did well, because he does what he does. He's completely unfazed by that. I think Abada, if he's got something he said where he's got to try and take a guy on, he'll do it. Yeah. He's kind of, it's a youthful exuberance, but I think as he develops, he'll get a wee bit more mature and maybe a bit more selective about when he does it. But it's actually quite enjoyable, because it's what we needed at that time. We needed somebody to just try and go and make something happen. And where Alston support he did. But I think Abada's pretty, as much as Giakoumakis is unique, Abada is as well, because he's just relentless. He just keeps going. He just keeps trying to make something happen. I love that about him.
Yeah, because there was a few things that didn't come off from him, before the goal. And I think Ange's the kind of coach, particularly for his wingers and his forward players, he'll say, just keep trying them. I'm telling you to keep trying them. Don't worry if it doesn't come off, because one of them will come off, and it's the one that will win us the game.
Well, I had actually said to the guy who was sitting next to about Maeda, saying, I wish he would try and go to the full back, and then sure enough that's what led to the goal. It wasn't too long after I said that he'd done it.
Maybe he heard you,
but I think he might have.
Good friends.
My Japanese is good. So after he'd done it, it was only into the second half. I think it was quite late on in the second half, or just before he'd get taken off, that he'd done it again. It seems to just be really selective. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's a confidence thing. Maybe it's the instructions that are being portrayed to me. You don't know, but just loosen up and just go for it. That's what you want your wingers to do. You're not. It's not just solely about ball retention. If you're playing against a packed defence like that, you can afford to lose the ball.
It also relies on the crowd to accept that. Wingers are going to take chances. It's 50-50. Sometimes you'll get by them, sometimes you won't. Maybe a bit more than 50-50. But as a fan base, you've maybe got to accept that you're not going to get to the byline 100% of the time as a winger, but you've got to give them that support that when they're trying to make things happen, it won't always come off, and you've got to back them up for that.
Bearing in mind, they never had Greg gone outside him yesterday, so
maybe we'll get to that. It's not quite in the agenda.
When we talking about him, not is it?
Anyway, just to go back to Giakoumakis very briefly, Mif, you mentioned his heat map and what that may or may not look like. You'll have heard maybe the stat, I think it was in Sports Scene as well. He had 16 touches against Dundee and scored with 3 of them. So that's a goal every 5.3-ish touches, give or take. It's a decent return on it.
It's not bad, considering, did you see, what was it, Lukaku the other day? 90 minutes, 7 touches in a ball.
7 touches.
And I think 2 of them were one of them was a kick-off.
I think the Celtic Maw heat map went through the roof when he whipped the tap off at the end.
Well, it's 2022. But he's certainly been looking after himself. But that's for a separate show. In terms of just, scoring goals and scoring late winners, so that was 86 minutes on Sunday. Just as a separate point, Celtic have now scored 101 goals so far this season. You'll have seen the club tweeting about it. So scoring plenty of goals, maybe conceding a couple that we shouldn't be, but we're certainly scoring plenty. And a number of those goals, they're, certainly fall into the dramatic late winner category. So Giakoumakis has been the latest one. Jota v Aberdeen, 84 minutes. I'm putting that in there, Paddy. I don't know if there's a cut-off at 85.
No.
I'm putting it in. Ralston v Ross County, about 130 minutes on the clock at that point. Abada v Dundee United, 90 minutes. It's not great for the ticker, Mif, but it's good for the league table, isn't it?
Most certainly. No great for the ticker at all. And what it does show, though, is that I think what you see, especially, it's easy to look good after you've scored in the last minute and everybody's getting at the big game, but you're seeing that emotion for the players that they do care. Yep. Guys like that are just in the door, like Juranovic, like Giakoumakis, like Abada, they get it. They care. They're Vickers as well. He's seen in the unique angle. He's
amazing.
He's ran up and volleyed the ball. Have you seen it?
I've not seen it.
When everybody's too busy admiring Giakoumakis' washboard, but the ball's bouncing. I think one of the Dundee players has kicked it away and Vickers just bypasses the celebrations, runs right to the ball and just volleys it.
Pure havoc moment.
Innovates. But you see what it means, and as fans, that's all you want to see. Is you just want to see that passion. Some of them are lone players. Some of them might not be there next year. But in the moment, when you're celebrating, you see how much it means to them. That's what's so important. It's that connection between the players, the fans, the manager. It's there just now. Whatever it takes, we just need to keep that momentum up. Simple as that.
It's definitely there and then some. Paddy, some folk mocked Ange's, we don't stop, we never stop training montage, and that video that came out in the summer. But we're actually seeing it playing out just in front of our very eyes at the moment, and we're getting the rewards.
Aye, absolutely. I don't have anything to say to those people.
That was one of your favourites. So Tino, you loved that video, didn't you?
That's great.
It was brilliant, and it's it was a wee bit cheesy and it was a wee bit staged and all that kind of stuff. But it got because at that moment in time, Ange was just in the door. It was maybe training session number 2 or 3 or whatever, and you don't know a thing about this guy. You were trying to find out, and you then get sent this, these buzzwords and these kind of different clips and all that stuff. It was brilliant, but a lot of these things can be sound bites, particularly in the modern day. But as I said, it is playing out. It's it's become a very real thing.
Absolutely. I think as fans, we were in need of some inspiration. Just after Ange was appointed, we were looking for that. The summer was the summer. It wasn't great, but Ange just came in. He had a clear plan, and he said, regardless of what anyone else thought, and in these types of situations, you need somebody that's kind of bloody minded with a clear plan that they want to go and execute, and that's what he's done, and we're now reaping the benefits of that. We've not even spoken about, when you speak about this season, we have already won a trophy.
Yeah,
that shouldn't be forgotten, because it's so relentless going on to think about the league. But it's just been such a turnaround. As I keep saying to my friends and even my boys and that, they were a bit disappointed about Thursday. I said, think about this time last year. Just think about what you were watching.
Just well, I remember, did your outlier of a friend give you some I told you so on Thursday after we get beat?
There's a wee bit, aye.
Was there?
Aye.
I want to speak to this
guy.
I'm not. We could get him on the blog. Get him to call in.
I'm not out.
Yeah, get him to call in one episode. Just what he's saying.
It's just so easy to say this, isn't it? Like you kind of.
You going to say that in your podcast?
Oh, take a step back and have a look at the season.
You going to say that in your podcast, wee man? I get a lot of that.
Yeah,
I get a lot of that.
Anyway, in response to all of that,
He's angry.
I don't know what I'm. But in response to all that, we obviously now have a 3-point lead in the table. We'll put that in the podcast, right? We've got a 3-point lead and a goal difference of 9+ over Rangers.
I'm counting it as 4.
But that's the thing. It's very, very important. And Paddy, as Giakoumakis himself put it, the league's pretty much over, isn't it?
I'm happy. I don't mind that. I don't care. No, listen.
No.
Do you
I
know
don't
what?
mind it too much either.
Away you go, man. Keep that in the dressing room. Get that patter launched.
Will they be pinning his tweet up onto the wall in the dressing room at Ibrox or something?
If it's Gio, it won't get very high.
I don't know.
If it's Gio, it won't get very high.
Yeah.
On the back of someone else's shoulders.
I don't have a great problem with it because I think, he's maybe spoken out a turn. Maybe Ange will pull him aside. Maybe he won't. It's up to Ange to keep her feet in the ground. I think if a player or an individual decides, he's feeling confident in the moment, I've no great issue with it because it shows the belief is there. I think there's a quote. He spoke to the press last midweek before the game on Thursday, and obviously Thursday's game didn't work out, but the quote was something along the lines of, we have a squad who are designed to dream big. It was something like that. I'll try and find it and I'll put it in the Twitter page and the socials, but there's a real belief in that team, and maybe he has stepped over the mark a wee bit with that kind of brash statement, and maybe it's not a very Celtic thing to do, but it shows you the confidence that's filtering through this team.
It's exuberance, but exuberance after scoring a hat-trick and a last-minute winner or late winner, it can be forgiven.
Yeah, I think even that result, for me yesterday, just kind of blows Thursday away and just kind of kicks us on to keep this momentum going. It's a huge, huge result, obviously getting it the way in the manner in which we got it. And I just think that, albeit it was quite frustrating to watch yesterday, it was quite a tough watch, to do it that way just gives us another wee kick up the backside, a wee bit of lease of life again, and we just kick on from here. And they'll be feeling that. Listen, it's not everyone's cup of tea, a player coming out and speaking like that. I totally get that. It's come back to sting people in the past, but Ange will be keeping them so grounded that comments like that won't come from the players. It'll be, everything comes for this full team. It's not individuals, and I'm not too worried about it. I kind of like it. I do kind of like it. It trumps their arrogance. It trumps their arrogance that they've shown in the last 12 months, ever since they've won the league, that they're back. When in all honesty, it's one trophy in how many years? Do you know what I mean? And it kind of just says to them, you're nowhere near us yet. So I quite like it. It lays down a marker for me. Yeah,
I think it does. Speaking of markers getting laid down, Mif, we've got 11 league games to go. And put very, very simply, I know it's a very simplistic view, if you win 10 of the next 11, the league's done, because obviously one of those would be against Rangers and it's all over. Is it a wee bit too, easier said than done?
Yes.
Would you like to embellish on that for the listeners?
Well, there's just got to be twists and turns coming. The interesting thing for me though is, the word momentum is regularly used in football and deemed to be an extremely important factor. If you not only take into account Sunday, but the 10-point swing that there's been since the Celtic engineered winter break, then that is a significant amount of momentum to shift. What I would say is Rangers seem to have slightly changed their style of play since we beat them, which has given a better standard of performance, I would say, when they've been playing. I think they were unlucky against Dundee United, to be quite frank. I did see a good bit of the game and they were unlucky, albeit United could have scored a couple of goals before they actually scored their own goal with their opener. But we've given ourselves wriggle room that we just quite simply didn't have before the break. We just didn't. So for me, there's still got to be twists and turns to come. We've got some hard games coming up, none more so than Sunday away to Hibs. So no, I'm not getting too ahead of myself, but I'm absolutely delighted at where we are, because we're way ahead of schedule. I thought we'd be chasing. I just can't believe that there has been a 10-point swing in such a short period of time. Yeah,
you're right to say there'll be twists and turns, and the likes of Sunday, there was a pivotal weekend. Again, Rangers dropped 2 points, we get full points with a late winner. Similar to the Dundee United Abada weekend, that's when they drew 3 each with Ross County. And you're right, I think there will be twists and turns, but where do you see Celtic twisting and turning? Because at the moment we're just battering through teams and just winning games of football. I'll just read out something here. Of the last 9 league games since we drew at St Mirren, that kind of sketchy game at Christmas time, Boxing Day I think it was, Celtic have won their last 9 league games in a row, 27 points. Rangers have won 5, drawn 3, lost 1. 18 points. They're twisting and turning. We're just battering through everything.
Yes, but also bear in mind, and it's on the basis of, you know, what I would regard as a slight dip in performance level over a few games. You know, it might happen, is my point. That's all. I'm not being pessimistic. No. I'm delighted with where we're at, but I'm just being realistic in the sense that performance level slightly tapered off. No doubt the Bodo games kind of brought it to everybody's attention, is we're maybe just not quite where we'd like to be. But again, there's mitigating circumstances for that as well. It's forgivable. You know, Aurelio's played a lot of games in a short period of time after just joining. Likewise with Hatate, likewise with Maeda. We have eulogised about the squad depth, but it just shows you that these guys will still need that bit of time as well. You know, they're no miracle men. So it's natural that would happen. But if that happens and we still manage to win games, then that's pretty formidable, because by the time they do get fully up to speed, then we should be a very, very well-oiled machine.
That's exactly what I think as well. And I go like to that run of 9 there, that the 9 wins is with players that have just arrived, that, you know, they've come right into the team, and it looks as if they've been part of the team all season. Some of them, we're still to see the likes of Ideguchi, we're still to obviously see Kyogo and Turnbull come back into the fold as well, and it's just given us more depth that we didn't have in the first half of the season. And I can't really recall us, other than the opening games at Celtic Park, when we won 6-0 against Dundee, and was it St Mirren? We've not really blown teams away. We've just got the job done, and we've done it well. And yes, the last minute winners have been great, but as a team that's still kind of, you know, you're going into the games with your 11 first team players, and a lot of the times we would all be like, oh God, look at that bench. Yeah. Now we're actually looking at it, and we've built this run, this 9-1 run from that game at St Mirren, and we're looking at the team just getting stronger and stronger, in my opinion. And yes, it's highlighted there on Thursday. I generally think that's probably one of the best things that could have happened to us in that sense. Oh, I didn't want it to happen. You know how much I'm an advocate is doing well in this tournament, but it's probably a good thing for us to kick us on to this final quarter of games. Yeah,
I think it's all the more admirable when you look at the fact that we managed to make it to the new year, and the Celtic engineered winter break with, you know, such a strong run of form at that moment in time. You've then since brought in, you know, Maeda, Hatate, Ideguchi, O'Reilly, and the young lad Kenny from Ireland. Hatate and O'Reilly are almost ever present since they came in, and Maeda's played quite a lot of football for us as well. And when you think of the fact that we've managed to do so much without them in the team, you know, there's all the more credit they should go to us for that, because I think I mention this every week now, you're missing your main man. Kyogo is the main man. He's still currently the club's top striker. You take the top striker out of any team in any level of any sort of football in the world, you generally suffer for it. We've managed to still get by despite that, and I think that's all the more credit to, you know, certainly the manager and the guys in the team who are pulling up the sleeves. And also a guy we've not mentioned. What's up, Mif?
No, finish your point.
A guy we've not mentioned, I will finish my point. A guy we've not mentioned from the Dundee game who really played his part in the last 10 minutes is Near Beaton.
Damn.
That was his point.
And it's got to be said, and I've got mixed feelings on him, and, you know, he's had some big moments at Celtic and some really, you know, poor moments, but he came in and showed all his experience and got us over the line.
He was excellent. He was excellent, because he came on at 2-2 for O'Reilly, and I think everybody was like, wait a minute, I can only imagine what Paddy was like, actually.
Yep.
But he was actually really purposeful as well. When he was passing forward, and then when it went to 3-2, the amount of kind of important headers, blocks that he made, or tackles that he made, was really notable. The point I was going to make just very quickly when you'd mentioned Kyogo there, is there any firm update on when he's due back? It's been very sketchy. Kind of post-split was...
Yeah, that's been very cloak and dagger from Ange. I think he said that he's got a similar type of injury to Turnbull, and Turnbull, I think, is only now getting back to training. He said Kyogo's 2 to 3 weeks behind that.
Well, Rumourville I heard today for wee Stevie, so everyone can shout at wee Stevie if this is right, is that he's out for the rest of the season. So I don't know what to believe on that one, but
wow, bringing the episode down with a bang, Paddy.
Just on that one, aye.
Celtic Exchange exclusive.
I know. I don't know if it's true, but obviously, so
wouldn't it be like a wee man to be doom and gloom?
No, you're not like that.
Aye, so I mean, I agree with your point. You know, I think it's well worth harping on, is that for Kyogo to have made the impact that he made, quite a very glaringly obvious impact at how good he was and what sort of level of quality it was, to then go without that quality and still do what we've done, I think is remarkable.
Yeah, maybe he'll be back for the Conference League final, Paddy. That way everybody's happy.
I'm hoping so.
Just to again look at the bigger picture in terms of league stuff though, so obviously we are at the business end, 11 games to go. Mif, you're right, so Sunday we're away at Easter Road. Generally speaking, a tough fixture. Hard to know what you're getting from them at the moment. We'll cover it in a wee bit. Then it's St Mirren in the midweek. We're at Celtic Park on the Wednesday, and then away to Livy. Just aside from anything else, I really hope Ange just blows that hoodoo out the water. He's not had great problems. He's obviously suffered at times this season, but this Livy record goes way back beyond Ange, and I hope he just comes in and deals with that, because I'm getting a wee bit fed up with it, Paddy.
Big difference for me is going to be the big man up against their back line. I thought that was crucial. The last game there, the amount of balls that got floated in, and it was to Kyogo, it was to Abada, it was to Jota, and we never won one header. This for me is a game for the likes of Giakoumakis. He's going to score a hat-trick against them, and that'll be it blowing out the water right there.
Is he your very own Lyndon Dykes? Is that what you're telling us?
I seen
no.
I can't. I apologise for not giving the due credit to. It was maybe Celtic was Boa. I might be wrong. And they said that Giakoumakis had been genetically engineered in a lab for Livingston away. Which I was killing myself.
It's true.
This game is made for him.
Well, we need something different, and it just falls into that category. I think it's become a psychological issue more than just an ability one now. I think we just need to treat it like any other game and go there, play our football, do our thing. Yeah. Simple as that. Just not overthink. I think we tend to play a few passes too many and take a bit too long in the ball when we play there. I think we just need to play with a bit more spirit.
The psychological thing's funny though for me, because most of the players going there haven't been to the Tony Macaroni. This isn't a thing for them. It's a whole new team. Greg Taylor, Callum McGregor, Tam Rogic. That's about it. All the rest of them don't have this.
I think it's more of the impact of going to the Tony Macaroni that it has on them. Coming in with the wee black pellets and their boots and all that sort of thing can be enjoyable.
Nah, it's not much fun. I mean, Paddy, if we do come through these three fixtures, Hibs, St Mirren, Livy, unscathed, we've then got 8 remaining league games, and it all becomes very real, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and we've been doing this quite a lot on this show, and I think it works well for our hearts, never mind the players' hearts. It's kind of just looking at those wee pockets of fixtures, like get by these and see where we're at, get by this one and see where we're at. I think if you do come through, obviously the next 10 days, 12 days even, it's then going to be, we're looking at what the run-in's going to be like. Obviously you've got the cup in between with Dundee United. Again, that'll be a tough game to go to, I think, as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is one game at a time, as Andrew's been saying. Totally agree with that.
I said it the other day, Paddy, I'm just taking this 11 games at a time and we'll see where we land for there. What we'll do, let's take a shift and we'll look at the European competition, just generally speaking, in terms of Thursday night, where it went wrong, and it did go wrong, and what we can expect from Thursday coming. So there's obviously a few narratives playing around the fact that Ange played with 2 number 10s, Rogic and O'Reilly, maybe just a wee bit too gung-ho. Giakoumakis could have been preferred to Maeda up top, might have just overall just been far too attacking an approach. But I think just ultimately, regardless of formation, systems, personnel, too many guys, as you said, Mif, too many guys just had an off night.
Yes, I'll start with Taylor because we'll mention him a couple of times. For all the good work that he's done this season, he was absolutely woeful on Thursday night, although he'll know that himself. The one thing though, where the first goal came from him because he got suckered in it. He left his position. He got suckered into rather than holding his position and maybe letting the guy turn and have a shot for 20 yards out. He's got suckered in. That's allowed the through ball to come. But if Jota's playing on the wing, he doesn't get a huge amount of protection. He gets doubled up on, which actually happened several times throughout the game. So slightly sympathetic for him in that, but his quality on the ball was just really poor as well. Probably as bad a game as he's had, I would say, because this season he set a fairly decent standard for himself. But that aside, because I know you wanted me to stick a good boot into him, Tino.
No, I don't. I really don't.
Those players up top that had off nights just all happened to have them together. I mean, like I say, probably with O'Reilly, I think there's maybe an element of a lot of games played very soon after joining. Rogic, that was as bad as Rogic has been in a long time. And he actually was quite sprightly when he came on at the weekend there. I thought he looked quite lively. But that was, Rogic was just bad all
he
over.
was.
I actually didn't think McGregor played that way. I thought McGregor did a decent game. It was just maybe trying to do a bit too much in the end, where he was trying to create as well as break up the play.
We covered it with Paddy. He's doing the work of 2 or 3 men there because you've got those 2 number 10s. I'd just like to say something on Greg Taylor. So we have a laugh and all that stuff now and then, but if Jota has a bad game on Thursday, which he did, it's just an off night for Jota. If Greg Taylor has a bad night, he's found his level. Europe's no for him. He will never be good enough. And I think you've got to be careful, or you've at least got to be fair to guys. There's a decent blog that we've put out on our site this afternoon. It's by Forest Finishing, who's a good lad, and he writes some guest blogs for us now and then, and he offers an alternative to some of the narratives that are doing the rounds. One of them is a really detailed look at the first 2 goals we've conceded. For the first goal, it's actually Matt O'Reilly who comes way out of position to give us an overload on our right hand side, leaving a big gap on their right, and Taylor ends up just being the guy who suffers from that. And because you're the guy closest to the goal when it goes in terms of outfield players, it's easy to point to him and say you're easy beat. He's stuck between a couple of positions, and sorry just to catch that, Paddy, but for the second goal as well, again it's O'Reilly, and he's a fantastic player and he'll go on to do really well for us. He kind of lets Greg Taylor down in terms of covering for him. The big number 9, what's his name, Solbakken, very good player. He's ultimately not megged him and all that stuff. O'Reilly's job at that point was to be covering, and he wasn't. So it's easy for all of us with the naked eye and at the time to say Greg Taylor. I don't think it's as straightforward as that. No,
I totally agree. Like you say, it's what we are seeing straight away. We're not looking at the build up as close at that point in time. We look at that when we go back and review the highlights, stuff like that. And I'd agree with you with O'Reilly. One of the things that baffled me about Thursday was, and I think Ange would happily accept that fans will feel a wee bit like puzzled as to why the two players did start. If you've done your research, that team mopped O'Reilly and Rogic up, no problem. They knew how to deal with him. They closed off every single pass, meaning that McGregor didn't really have much to work with. And actually their front line was very, very good at stopping their defence from bringing the ball out. And that stopped us from trying to get those quick passes into those danger areas. Everything was going out to our fullbacks, and the paths to the likes of Jota, the likes of Abada were getting blocked fairly quickly as well. So it was very well organised with them. I just couldn't understand why O'Reilly, after having such an effective game with Abada and Juranovic against Rangers, was moved to the other side. Now, listen, he might be more comfortable on the left-hand side of the 2 attacking, but I just felt that the link-up play between the 3 of them, especially against Rangers, was brilliant, and I don't know why you pulled away from that. It didn't make much sense to me.
Why change it?
Well, I think that the important thing there is that gets tested under extreme pressure against Rangers, so you would make that a comparable game because you're probably going to be under as much pressure in terms of time on the ball, and if you've got players you can trust to move it quickly, it just makes that all the easier. My take on the game is that both teams kind of went toe to toe. Celtic get spooked by the fact they conceded first, and it naturally, goals change games at every level. Celtic just went that extra 5-10 yards back, and it gave them time to play, settle into the game, killed the crowd, and then it was flat for their own in. Even when Celtic scored, if you go over there 2-1, we're still in the tie. We've conceded a very, very unlucky goal. It's poor.
But it's poor.
It's poor, but it's very, very unlucky.
It is poor, and I believe the blog I mentioned is well worth checking out because I believe that the stats don't bear out. Your head, the eye test tells you, geez, we took a bit of doing there. And actually some of the stats don't bear out. They didn't have a lot of clear-cut chances, and that's a 30-yard just freak goal, freak deflection and stuff like that. But if you go 2-1, you're thinking very differently. To your point as well, Mif, obviously they've opened the scoring within 5 minutes, and that's changed the tone and the whole feel, and the 60 odd thousand fans. It just changes everything about
we
that.
were nearly in a couple of times with just a pass selection at the edge of the box. We were nearly in a couple of times. We just I think Jota overran it, my head, I picked the wrong pass, whatever. We were there and thereabouts. It was flowing, and then just bang. And listen, that's what happens.
I still think we get to this team. I really do. I still think that there's enough in our.
Go on.
100%. No, you look at that last Thursday. For me, I think you're nail on the head with that first goal.
Come on.
No, but that first goal, you seen the back line, they froze almost. They didn't feel too comfortable trying to knock it about the back like they do when they're kind of recycling the play. And for me, that just totally left McGregor swarmed with about 3 or 4 every time he was getting the ball. All their midfield and attack were just leaving O'Reilly and Rogic to their two centre halves or even their two fullbacks.
I suppose.
I'll finish on that one.
After you.
Just go for it on Thursday. I still think we can easily score away from home.
What I would say is everything's a learning curve at this stage as well, because so that's Matt O'Reilly's European debut, so you can forgive him quite a lot of things.
Every day's a school day, Tino.
Yes. Rio Hatate, Maeda, all these guys haven't played in European football at any level. Ange has only just started coaching in European football this season. There's no doubt, he might not admit it, in any of his pressers, but he'll have learned things and he may say, maybe I got that wrong with the two number 10s or whatever it might be. And I think you're right, Paddy. I think you've absolutely got to go for it. Mif, do you buy into anything about going out with a B team and playing a shadow team on Thursday? Or do you go for it?
I hadn't really gave it any consideration, to be honest with you.
Well, please do. We do a weekly podcast on it. I'd love you to consider these things.
I think you just go there and try and win the game.
But do you think you hold back? Do you play any fringe players?
Maybe make a couple of changes, but only if you felt they were going to do the required job. Listen, like Paddy said, the league's a priority, yes, but I think history tells you when you try to be too clever, it normally comes back and bites you. We're in a position where we just need to try and win every game in every competition. That's what Celtic fans demand.
Yeah, I just think and hope that Ange, he always plays his strongest team. I don't think he buys into this resting players. That's what Summer's for and all that kind of stuff. And I think he'll really go for it. I think the first goal on Thursday past was very important in setting the tone for that night. I think the first goal on Thursday coming could be seriously important. And whether Celtic get it early, the big shout is an early goal could spook them. If it's nothing each after 60 minutes and Celtic get a goal, then it maybe sets the tone for a grandstand finale. So the tie is far from over. And what I would say is I don't think Celtic will play as badly as that again. I thought we were really quite poor, really quite unfamiliar from what we've seen so far this season in terms of Thursday past.
But that was down to them, in my opinion. Some and some.
Sometimes it's hard to predict and maybe they made us play badly, but I just think individually we know the talent a guy like Jota's got and he just wasn't doing it. But that's, for me, nothing to do with anything else than him having a bad night. And for that you can read Rogic, Maeda, various others as well.
Yeah, but agreed. And I think, if you look at level of performance, like you mentioned there, the level of performance was way below what we expected. You can talk about stats and things like that, but if you watch the game, they set traps for us, we fell into it.
Yeah.
It was that simple. But we are quite well suited to playing away from home in Europe, and our performances in the Europa League have been fairly stellar away from home. So for that point of view, if we bring the level of performance that we did against Leverkusen, Betis and Ferencváros, I think we've got a good chance of winning the game. Maybe not progressing, but certainly winning the game.
Yeah.
On that note, what's your scoreline prediction?
2-1 Celtic.
2-0 Celtic.
I've got it in my notes before you'd said it, Mif. I'm 2-1 as well. I think we can go there and win, but maybe we just fall short. Hope I'm seriously wrong. Paddy, you're taking it to extra time then with a 2-0 scoreline.
Aye.
Are we going to win in extra time?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to the final.
Or you don't want to go to the PKs, all the drama?
No, I don't want that. No.
2-10s.
2-10s.
But it'll be an interesting night, one way or another. And I think we do have it in us to win. And I've got to be honest with you, I'm kind of torn a wee bit. I'm kind of happy enough either way. I'd love to see us progress. But if we go out, you'll dust yourself down and say, okay, now let's go and focus on the bigger picture. So we're kind of in a win-win situation-ish of sorts. Let's move on briefly. We've obviously got Hibs in on Sunday, so Easter Road, tough place to go. But Hibs, sketchy form under Sean Maloney. They beat Ross County 2-0 at the weekend. They beat Arbroath, Championship leaders, 3-1 in the Scottish the previous weekend. And Maloney still seems to be finding his feet there, but it'll be a tough tie.
But always a tough game, Easter Road, absolutely. I think, though, what we kind of have to look at is that you mentioned about that 3-1 victory against Arbroath. Apparently Arbroath should have beat them, from what I've heard. It was a very uncomfortable 90 minutes for them, and there's been a lot of murmurings on the likes of social media and through group chats that Maloney's not impressing there at all as well. So I think that makes it a tough game because every player for these teams, they always raise their game against ourselves. So I just think it's they'll be trying to prove something. I think it'll be a difficult 90 minutes, and considering if we do go all the way, if it does go penalties or extra time penalties over in Norway, then yeah, he does need to get the team selection right on that basis. He needs to have that in the back of his mind, I think. But I think Sunday will be a difficult game.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paddy. For all Hibs' ups and downs this season, obviously Jack Ross got the bullet and Maloney came in. They're currently sitting fourth in the table, albeit there's a real tight group of teams there. They're fourth, but it's only on goal difference. So I think them, whoever's in fifth and sixth, have all got 34 points. And then there's only a couple of points down the table as well to, I think, ninth, where Livingston are. So, I mean, they'll be pushing hard for a place. They'll certainly want to cement fourth, and they won't want to finish too far outside of Hearts, City rivals and all that.
No, I mean, Hibs have their own motivations, and I think going back to Maloney's first game against us at Celtic Park, they've lost Boyle since then, but I thought they played, they kept the ball well enough. You could see what he was trying to do. Since then, they've actually been, they've been fairly inconsistent, it's fair to say. My worry with that game is just, in general, I know we've won in the Cup at Easter Road and we won earlier in the season, but in general, it's a place where we have been prone to dropping points in previous seasons, going back to Rodgers and Lennon's tenure. So, definitely a game where that is a potential banana skin, but I think we're just going to approach it like we do every other. We're just going to go and try and win it. It's always harder after you've been away in Europe. Who knows how long the game might go on Thursday. Chance would be a fine thing if it does go to extra time, but as always when you go to Easter Road, you're never certain of the victory. You just hope that we can get the result.
And the result will be
1-0 Celtic.
I'll go with that 1-0.
Yeah, I've gone 2-0. I think Hibs are struggling, but I don't think it'll be any sort of walkover. I think they're scrapping about, and Maloney will certainly have them motivated, and as you say, but it's always a tough place to go, and yeah, it could be quite a messy game, taking everything into consideration, travelling back from Norway, albeit it's not far, but the kind of whatever exertions the players have to put in there, so could be a tough day at the office. I think 2-0, you lads think 1-0. We'll see how it goes. Paddy, as we're starting to wrap things up for today's episode, what's your final thoughts for the week?
I just keep doing what we're doing. Obviously, we look at the last two games. Yes, we've conceded those goals. I'm not too worried about it. I think it's something that they address, and they address it now. And we've still got that massive victory yesterday, and we're still kicking on in the league and still continue to do what we've been doing all season. So I'm over the moon with this team this year. I really am, and I just want to see them kick on and go and win this league. Absolutely. But Thursday, I'd love to see us go and just give it all and see what we can do. I think this team are beatable.
Yeah, you're UEFA Conference League mad, aren't you?
I really am.
You love that too.
I love an away trip, mate.
As maybe more when it's allowed. Mif, likewise, how are you feeling about the week ahead?
Well, again, as long as we have a goal, the performance is better. In both games, I'll be happy. Ideally, the most important one's the 3 points at Easter Road and Sunday. So, yeah, I mean, listen, just game at a time. That's all we can do now. Game at a time.
I told you, Mif, 11 games at a time.
Oh, no, not having that. But Thursday, just I think how we approach it and the performance that we give is important, whether we go through or not. We've given ourselves a mountain to climb, but I think if we go there, have a go, cause them problems, I'll be happy.
Yeah, fair enough. So we find ourselves entering another key phase of the season as Celtic look to continue their relentless domestic form at the top of the Scottish Premiership table. We now face a tough challenge to remain in Europe for the season, but we're sure Ange will go into that one in Norway, all guns blazing. It's the only way he knows how. Thanks to Mif and Paddy for joining me in today's show, and of course our thanks to you for continuing to follow and support the Celtic Exchange. Please continue to do so by liking, subscribing and sharing this episode far and wide with your Celtic network. It really makes a big difference to what we do. But in the meantime, and as always, thanks for tuning in.